It marks the 25th year of wedded bliss with my wife, Jenny. So I'm excited to celebrate that milestone of life. That's always good to stay married. That's a big bonus. And it's been an awesome journey for me and my wife, Jenny. We're going to talk about, God's purpose prevailing in the midst of failing. I don't think it's supposed to rhyme that good, but I think as long as you've walked along a path with someone for an extended period of time, there's going to be failures and there's going to be successes. And I'm glad to have had a lot of great times in the good and the bad. That's the right, Dr. J, when you talk about taking the vows in sickness and health, in poorness and wealth, more rhyming. That's kind of how it works, right? No matter what,
Yeah,
ups and
absolutely.
downs, we're together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if this was a book or a saying, but it's called Failing Forward.
Yeah.
I don't
Yes.
know if it always feels like that in a marriage or in business or otherwise. Sometimes it's failing backwards, failing all over the place. But
Yeah.
yeah, looking to get into
I,
it today.
Yeah.
I love that
100%.
you brought that up. But I think I share that all the time. Fail forward. You have
Yeah.
a silver lining. So as
That's
long as you find whatever that lesson is or whatever that blessing is, you fail forward.
Yeah, that's good. And if you're wondering, and if you can't read, that's DJ Flores today, guys. We have DJ with us as our guest, and we're going to get into this conversation we already kind of started off with, and excited to hear more about your testimony, your calling, your assignment, and what God's brought you through. So, yeah, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about
Yes, sir.
DJ is a fellow Christian chamber. We have back-to-back weeks where we've had the Virginia Christian Chamber folks coming on. And so Darian last week, today we got DJ. So we're diving into that network, which is awesome. But learned a little bit about you as we got to connect through that. But yeah, just kind of give us a little bit of your background so people can get to know you.
Yeah, definitely. So, just a kid from Cleveland, was moved here. Not that kid, but a different kid from Cleveland, and but literally just was brought here a little over 2.5 years ago from John Hewitt. He found me from doing this sort of live stream podcast world. So anybody who knows John Hewitt or doesn't know, he is the Hewitt from Jackson Hewitt and Liberty Tax. He now founded Loyalty Brands, which just exited out of one of the president roles for one of his brands, the Inspection Boys. But literally, my journey started, and what kind of led me here was God. Honestly, it was truly God, and it was truly failing. So you kind of teed it up perfectly. But I pre-COVID, I was in the logistics space. I had a freight brokerage, was doing really well. But what I realized throughout my spiritual journey, I have so much internal guilt and discernment that I started feeling so guilty about the money that I was making, never having to leave. I mean, I was making money, never leaving my room, being able to just sit at a computer screen like I am right now. And so I had so much guilt. I created a Facebook group to just share what was helping me succeed in that space. It kind of blew up, led to me creating a podcast with a guy out of Canada about logistics. But pre that and kind of pre my testimony or where you wanted to go with the failing was COVID. So had a freight brokerage, was doing really well, and unlike very similar to most people's journey during COVID, my book of business and my team. So well, I'll back up the story a little bit. So right before COVID, 2019, the agency I was partnered with out of Kansas City flew all of the top agents out to Kansas City to talk them in, basically wine us and dine us and talk us into starting our own agency within their agency. And so did pretty well, had a decent savings. So beginning of 2020, went all in. Got an office, started building a team, the desk, the team, hiring a bunch of people, and COVID happened. And literally like that, my book was done. Most of my freight was USDA, going to schools. going to food banks. Obviously, those were instantly closed, jails. And so literally we were done. And so I also, I'm an 80s baby. So I'm what some people would say, the end of Gen X. I think actually I give grace to 84, 85. They got to experience what that really means to be Gen X. But literally, hit 40 at the same time of COVID. I'm born in 80, and I'm like, okay. So I've been chasing money, I've been chasing status, I've been chasing all of these things. I was born and raised Catholic, ended up going LDS, to ended up, I don't know if I was maybe atheist, I guess you would say at one time, thinking Jesus was just a really good salesperson. And then ended up ended up at the age of 40 thinking, okay, well, I was chasing money and status and these things because really I just want to give it away. Like I don't value anything. Like I don't care about cars. I don't care about, I realized that hitting 40 as well. Like I don't actually care about this stuff. So why am I doing this? Well, I just want to give it away. Well, maybe I'm never going to be rich enough to give it away. So, or maybe I'll never have money to give it away. So what can I give away? And that was kind of the aha and like where everything changed. But it was, what can I give away? And then it was really just tracing my 25 years of sales and marketing. I'm a terrible self-promoter, but I love to promote things that I believe in. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. And that's what kind of led me on that journey with the podcast and then John Hewitt and here I am.
Yeah. The one thing that kind of has struck me when you were talking about your initial kind of podcast to help other people in the logistics space was this idea of guilt. Kind of unpack that. Like, what was it that you were dealing with guilt wise? Was it just like, is it related to this thing about being successful and not really know what to do with it? And like you said at the end there, kind of wanting to give back. What was the, where do you see that guilt was really being born out of?
So I'll tell you. Obviously, it's what God has given all of us. If we pay attention to it, it's the the Spirit and discernment. But at the time, didn't really know. And so I'll kind of backtrack that. So born and raised Catholic, I went to private school all the way to college. I actually went to a private Franciscan college. Um, and but really never connected with Jesus, with the gospel, with the story. Honestly, grew up with and that's, I'm so glad you asked this question because I wanted to kind of touch on this because I think this is what a lot of people are struggling with today. But I first battled with definitely church hurt. I was looking to human mentors. I was looking to other Christians to kind of lead the way. And when I'm looking up to these people and then I'm finding their failures, I'm like, oh, this is not right. And so that's what then led me to, at the age of 27, being baptized LDS. Now I found members of a church that really kind of at least resembled what I thought again at that age of 28. I think I'd know it all. I think at that time, church people, Christians are supposed to be. But then that's where the first sign of this guilt, like you're talking about, and then came up again with during the logistics. But the first sign of guilt was then. So now I'm going to a church where I don't feel like the priest, like anybody is pointing down or shouting down on you because of your failures or your faults. Um, but I knew that the members were against drinking caffeine and drinking alcohol. And at the time, I socially drank alcohol. Now I don't drink at all, but at the time I socially drank and drank caffeine. So I felt like I wasn't good enough to be there. Like I'm not as good as those people. So that's when the first was like, whoa, hold on. Like, and again, but I just kind of blew it off as maybe I'm crazy, maybe there's something, but again, a total disconnect. And then it was logistics. I started making uh, money, really, really good money, and not having to do a lot of effort from going from 20 some years of really being hitting the ground. I mean, I was a road warrior for literally like 15 to 18 of my sales, years of just door to door or going, in home. And so being able to one was very grateful, obviously, for what I had, but then knowing like this world doesn't work without the drivers. And these drivers are leaving their families. They're away from their families all the time. They're risking their lives. I know the stuff they're having to deal with because I have to deal with it for them on the broker side. So I'm like, this is terrible. And then coming from the first brokerage I was partnered with, that again, I don't know if this is streamed on LinkedIn, but they are very notorious on LinkedIn for the non-compete world that
Mm.
thankfully politics and the government is battling today. But literally fell kind of victim to that. Did really well right away, but figured out, hold on, there's a trick. I'm making a lot of money, but I'm not actually making a lot of money. I'm just making this very small salary. Where is this money going? And
Mm.
so I guess it was quicker to catch on than most. But at the time they were changing paperwork, I thought I could exit, and they hit me with a lawsuit and all this crazy stuff. And I found out real quick how that world and bigger companies kind of tie with the the courts because I
Mm.
seen it. It was literally like a separate arm for this company of the court. Like they knew right what I was for. I'm just getting sent to here, to there, to there. I mean, I literally had a court date before I even received the paperwork. I got a court date via email.
Mm.
So I was like, whoa. But anyway, so literally they were no help. They didn't help me succeed. I helped them succeed. And so what I again seen was, all right, this is just like every other sales company I've worked for. You guys don't want to help people, you just want to use them. So I then created a Facebook group to give everything. So I literally just gave, I called it Freight 101. Tips and tricks for freight brokers. I ended up having to transition it to uh, truck drivers and dispatchers because I ended up having 30,000 members before I knew it. I'm like, whoa.
Mm.
But all I was doing was giving away the templates, my call scripts, anything that worked for me. I'm like, okay, if these places aren't going to they aren't going to hire you without experience, and they're not going to teach you what to do, I'll do it. And so I
Mm.
just started giving it away. And that was kind of like, again, I felt like that was my selfish way to like not feel so bad about making the money that I was making. Although I seen the darker side of it. I mean,
Mm.
I seen in the freight world, a lot of broker worlds, they call it rips or the commission, the spread, even in stocks. And some of these brokers were it was just so shady. It was so terrible what they were doing. Government contracts, they're charging ridiculous amounts of money because they can. It's like, why don't you give some of that to the drivers? Why don't you, and and it's you're pocketing this. Why are you doing this?
Mm.
So I really just knew then, like, wow, this is terrible. But then there was just something inside me just driving me more. Now, at this point, I still have no true relationship with Jesus. It was honestly John Hewitt and my journey through COVID and then here that
Yeah.
kind of led me to Jesus, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, like you said, you hit this 2020 was a real marker in time. And we probably had this conversation here a little bit on the Corral Call with other guests. And I know Jay and I, we've talked about it, and we see that as, I mean, it's pretty easy to see how the world changed at that moment, right? And
Yeah.
what the enemy was trying to do was obviously isolate, separate, and cause division, all these different things, right? But in the midst of all that, God has this plan, right? Like we're
Yep.
talking about, there's all these things are failing. Some people are probably taking advantage of other people in that time frame, and people are
Yeah.
grabbing for control and power in different ways. But all along the line, there's stories like yours, DJ, where God's positioning you, maybe against your will, for the next thing. And so,
It's my wife's will for sure.
right. Yeah, so all of a sudden now you're like, you get this random message, I guess, from a very successful business person, and I think you were like, man, somebody's spamming me, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So again, pre getting involved in the podcast world, I'm like most of the small business owners out there today. Guys, they're cheating. Collaboration is the future of business, and they have AI and tech. They've been using it forever, the big companies. But literally, I was blind to that. I worked for small mom and pops. I was most of the time the first salesperson or their first sales manager, but like working directly with owners. And so I didn't understand the world of tech, these flows, the workflows and the triggers and the AI and all this background stuff going on. And so get involved in the podcast and I'm learning this stuff. And then I get reached out from John Hewitt via LinkedIn. And it's funny because so I'm one who's victim of I come from a huge family, but I thought I had this huge network and I failed multiple multi-level network marketing pyramid scheme businesses because I thought I had a network when I didn't. And so I realized the value one of a network first via podcasting. Honestly, and that was what really helped. And so I'm glad you brought up the this ties with the failure and finding the silver lining of things. And the evil spirits, the devil of this world is trying to separate us, like you're saying, and isolate us and create little silos, but it's also opened the opportunity to stuff like this. And that was kind of what opened up for me. I got pushed from Dan, who was the co-host of the first podcast, like, hey, I'm getting all the guests. You need to get some guests. And I'm like, man, I don't even know anybody. Like I come from Cleveland. My family was my network. Like I don't know people. And so I just started reaching out via LinkedIn, honestly, and just connecting with people because of their content and liked what they had to say, would like it, would comment, and then, hey, do you want to be on a podcast? And sure enough, people loved to come on and tell their story. And so ended up really connecting with so many different amazing people. It's unbelievable. And then here comes John Hewitt, and I get this random message. And I'm like, okay, I think my first message back was, I don't know if this is a bot or not, but I'll bite. And so I scheduled the appointment. And then, so I'm anticipating I'm getting sold something, but I'm not really sure. And so I take the call and I'm talking to at the time, I think she was the uh, president of business development. I don't know, she was higher up in the executive team, but Tanya McLean. And I'm like, and she's just talking to me and asking questions, almost as an interview, but not really as an interview. So I'm like, what is going on? Like, and so within like 15 minutes, I'm like, okay, like, are you trying to sell me something? Like, I'm confused. What is this about? And she's like, oh, well, John just finds people sometimes. And, if he wants to connect, I'll talk to them. And then, he'll talk to you via Zoom. And I'm like, what? Yes. And again, it was at this time. So pre-starting the podcast to kind of tell my connection and journey with God. At that time, hitting COVID, Napoleon Hill calls it the age of wisdom. That's so true. Um, and but literally I said, okay, God, like, and John, it was John Hewitt's book then that he's one of his lines in his book, I Compete, was he wanted to outgive his parents. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go even further. I'm going to try to outgive God. And so just was trying to give whatever I can, like help, support, help, no, with no expectations of anything ever coming back. And obviously that leads you down a tough road. Financially, I will tell you. But in the relationship wise and really having a network and having those people, man, it couldn't have been more at the right time. And again, ended up leading then to John Hewitt. And so at the time of, again, God kind of leading me down this crazy journey of I don't know where this is going and what I'm doing, but hey, this is what you want me to do. I'm doing it. And so I ended up having him on a podcast. Well, at this time, I'm realizing after doing a year of podcast about logistics that I actually knew nothing about freight. I've never been on a truck. Half of the stuff these people were talking about, I felt guilty, like I lied to people because I really didn't know. I was just obviously good at selling and good at people, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And so I felt, again, there's that internal guilt. And I'm like, okay, I don't really know anything about this. So my kind of side of the podcast ended up going away from logistics talk and more business and franchising and kind of taking the risk in that lonely road of entrepreneurship and all of that. And then here comes John Hewitt. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to start my own podcast. Will you be my first guest? So that's the only thing I was looking out of this was he was going to be a big name to be a guest. So I have the Zoom with him. He says yes, he'll do the podcast. He's my first guest on the Robin Hood Capitalist. I don't even know what I'm going with it, except I knew the name. It was screaming at me. Robin Hood at the time, they were doing that whole GameStop screwing with kids and GameStop and Robin Hood and people playing in the stock market. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to play on that. So Robin Hood, and also the true story of Robin Hood didn't steal from the rich. He stole from the governments. And so I'm like, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to steal from the government. I don't want to steal from the rich. And so I'm like, that's perfect. And then capitalism. And people really understand America and what makes us great is capitalism and small businesses, not these big monsters who are buying up everybody and then transferring them into BlackRock or Vanguard and one of the, big three that own everything, but it's the small companies. And so it's like, okay, that's what I want to talk about. And so John Hewitt comes on and it's crazy because then it led to, again, he moved me and my family out here 2.5 years ago. One of his fastest growing brands for loyalty brands is a brand called Zoom and Grooming. So it's mobile pet grooming. So they come to your house and groom your pet right there. Uh, Blowing up. And so he wanted me to start a dog walking, dog sitting brand to either be its own separate brand or be part of Zoom and Grooming. So I did that originally and kind of led to all of this from here. But yeah, it's been a crazy journey, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh
Jay, you
man.
got what do you got?
There's tons there. For our listeners, I always I'm listening, picking up all of the nuggets, and so I just want to highlight a couple things, DJ, because you said something earlier about either being terrible at promotion or self promotion, but liking to promote things that you believe in. And I think there's a lot to be said there because in everything that you've been speaking about, I was just picturing it in my mind, and you were giving people hope that the thing that you believed in, people began to believe in it also. Even in people that's been in the industry, maybe for even years, maybe even longer than you, but have seen the dark side and have even become jaded or just totally disgusted with it. Seeing somebody like you, that belief, that faith element is very powerful. So I just wanted to highlight that for our listeners, number one, and say thank you for everything that you do. And the other thing is this thing that you said about having this heart and this desire to outgive God and to just make yourself available, and everything that came from that. I know it hasn't been always like roses, rainbows, and sunshine,
No, no,
but
no.
to see how the Lord has positioned you and has elevated you because you made yourself available. Hopefully, our listeners are picking that up as well, because a lot of times we have this path that we want to go and we want God to buy into that. When God is saying, hey, I need you to buy into what I'm doing, what I want to do in you right now. And I just see that in your story, and it gives me so much encouragement and so much hope, because when you talk about freight and trucking and all of this, who's thinking about podcasting? Who's thinking about John Hewitt and taxes? How does all that fit, right? And it
Right.
just shows that you can't track or trace God, but if you're making yourself available and you're working on developing your relationship with Him, man, anything's possible.
Thank you for that. And it's funny you said that. Man, now you might have triggered my next venture, but literally I was gonna like create a new podcast. Let me be your hope dealer. But literally
That's good.
that's what I ended up connecting. And I'll tell you what helped me, and I hope anybody listening who is struggling on their spiritual journey, like I definitely was for 40 years, and still going through the journey, but is when there's church hurt. So first be very mindful and there's nobody to follow on this earth or anywhere than Jesus. Jesus is the only and greatest mentor. And I heard John Hewitt not say that once, but twice. And once being in front of me in one of our little business meetings while I was going through my, I guess, interview process. But in Columbus, I heard him say to a guy, and at this time I know John a little bit. and I knew his business mentor was Peter Drucker. And so this guy had put him on the spot. And funny enough, Mark, you'll like this, but he's actually a guy, his name's Craig Habenar. I'm totally messing up your name. I'm sorry, Craig. But he is starting and launching a Christian chamber in Columbus. So he is part of the U.S. Christian Chamber. He also is a master franchisee for Action Coach, which is a business coaching franchise. But literally, he's in a meeting with him, and Craig puts him on the spot and says, who's your business mentor? And he said business mentor. I know he did. I know he did. And so I'm sitting there, and this at this point, I've only heard John say it on a podcast that Jesus was his mentor. And that was the first time that it stopped me. Like, okay, I've been looking for everybody. Even John Hewitt was my mentor, but forget this. Like, Jesus is my mentor. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly Jesus is my mentor. But then he's on the spot and he's right in front of me. And Craig says, "Who's your business mentor?" And I'm thinking, okay, this is it. Like, is he going to say Peter Drucker? Is he going to say Jesus Christ? He said Jesus Christ. And I'm like, okay, that's it. Like, done. I know that's my answer. God, this is where you're leading me to this whole time. But yeah, literally that's what I think people need to realize is religion is a set of rules. Jesus even himself was against religion. And so I think people need to realize and today this and that's what led me to the whole Good Wolf thing and then really my simple kind of mindset of follow Jesus, not religion. And I think that's what people need to realize today. Like, forget the separation of your religions. We're all going to be separated if we keep breaking down all these religions. Just follow Jesus. Just make it that simple. If we do that first, we all can kind of align from there. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Because again, yeah, Hope Dealer was something I've been playing with,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
because I realized that's what it was. I was just giving people that hope that kind of I needed, and that's what I even with my content that I share. I mean, I tell people I selfishly kind of share the content I do religiously today because it helps me. It's part of my daily routine, really. Um, it helps me. And so the people who reach out to me, thank you again for obviously there
Yeah.
are times that and it's funny. God always kind of just nudges people to you when you need it. But there've been many times that I'm like, why do I keep doing this content? My wife, I know, is sick of it. Why am I doing this? Like, I'm not promoting myself. I don't even want this to be about me. Like, this is just about him. But like, why am I doing this? Every time I want to quit, somebody sends me, man, if it wasn't for you. I just recently had this guy reach out. I mean, he was literally, basically, I don't know his total story. And shout out again, thank you for reaching out. But he was at a church at the time, walked away from 38 years of what he said mental kind of abuse and stress from his family. Now, I don't know if that's like family, like marriage family or parents and family. I don't really know. But he's like, I just need your prayers. I'm like, wow, hold on, like, why are you reaching out to me? And I'll pray, like, prayed for him. I sent him a few music songs. I always go to music. I think people need to realize uh, what we consume throughout is everything is our diet what we read what we listen to when we think is everything and so sent him some songs he ended up oh thank you I loved all of them I made it my new list for my new journey I'm like yes because I'll tell you his first message didn't sound so hopeful I mean he was ready to give it all up.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this conversation about Jesus being the mentor, it's interesting. Jay, because I just shared this with you. We had Pastor Mark Verghese at our church this past week. He leads an amazing ministry, a Kingdom City Church, and it's in like 20 countries. I didn't know of him until he came, but great message about the Lord is my shepherd. And, this is that idea that we can look to a lot of people to be our shepherd. And of course, that anything dealing with sheep and shepherd makes me pay extra attention. But where my parents had a Psalm 23 camp growing up. So, but that idea that we look to Jesus first, and that's a great thing. And of course, we have things in the discipleship space. We're always talking about that. We'll have some things coming up with Oz Hillman and the In Generations project regarding mentors and all that. But it's that whole idea of what Paul says: "Follow me as I follow Jesus." And so when you're
Yes.
around folks that have made Jesus as their real shepherd, then we can also learn and gather from them, but always understanding that they're not the source, right? That they've, as long as we're surrendering and they're surrendering, then we can come together, right? And really
Yeah.
see God, work through other people. But yeah, we can always get the focus off, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sure there was a lot of challenge, like as you're moving through these stages of failure and whatnot. How was that when you're in these moments of
Mm.
real difficulty? Your focus can be like Peter on the waves, right? You're looking at that, not at Jesus. How were you able to navigate that in these different seasons for you, DJ?
So I'll tell you, and this is probably the first time I'm ever sharing this publicly, but literally, I mean, it was darkness before the light for sure, and I had to be broken completely. But again, I had obviously, I mean, there's point pre-COVID, the dirty world of sales and business. I mean, I fell victim to all of it, and so a lot of shame to where I couldn't even look myself in the mirror. And then honestly, it was once I said, okay, I've done this, I'm doing this, I give it to you. Like, first, the freedom of that was like, whoa, okay, like, whatever happens now, like, because even though I struggled through my spiritual journey, I always had this just deep, like, faith. I just had this deep faith, like, even to the point, part of my first initial struggle of Christianity, following religion at all was my mom and my family was very stronger toward their faith and Christianity and all this than I was. But they always worried so much. And I think, and my first thought deep inside always was, if you believe in God, Jesus, and all this, like, what are you worried about? Like, I'm so confused. Like, I don't understand. And that was like that since I was a kid, like, always my, why? Why are you worried? Like, I don't get it. And then that's really what got me through was that faith. And then really leading to the point of almost like facing, okay, do I end this? I lost the business basically during that journey, during COVID, lost my freight business. Me and my wife's first house we bought that we did have plans to flip. We ended up having to flip because we were either going to lose it or flip it. And so we flipped it. And then started a business called Flow Resale because now I think I understand the world where I don't understand human capitalism and the human capital side of business world. And the business I started didn't really make sense and failed again. And it's like, holy cow, now life savings gone, house gone, all this gone. Like, whoa, what did I just do? Like, what am I doing? Why did I do this? And then it was, literally, okay, well, do I end it? Am I even supposed to be here? Should I be here? Why am I here? And it was like, and then again, that internal guilt, and it was you can't. Like, who are you going to hurt if this happens? Who does this hurt if you do this? And I was like, yeah, I can't do that. It's easy for me. I can't do it for them. So then I was like, okay, well, then I just got to follow him because that's where I'm getting this guilt. I got to follow this completely. And that's where I guess in the hardest times, it was just what led me here, what led me from Cleveland to being here and all these different opportunities and meeting all these people was following him. Just gonna keep following it and know that obviously he's got something in plan. There's some reason for this.
Yeah, that's
Man.
amazing. And Jay, didn't we just talk about this morning? Like literally the point we have to get to is just, realizing that everything's going to work out, even if it's, doesn't look good right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
that's
yeah,
exactly
for
what we're talking
sure.
about, Jay.
Yeah, for sure. And just to kind of encapsulate what you just said, and also DJ, is this sense of I've fallen into it. When we look at these prominent leaders or people that have accomplished these great things, um, we typically put their story into this step by step, simple progression for there, then they went here, then they went here. You know what I mean? But the more we do these corral calls and have these wonderful individuals like DJ on here, the more that hopefully our listeners and those who are watching see that when you feel like your life is a mess and in utter chaos, you may be just where God wants you to be. Because
Yep.
I don't think we've had one leader on here that said, yeah, I did this and then it worked out. Then I did the next thing and it worked out. And then the next thing. It's always, man, like this didn't work. I thought it was all over. Then it wasn't. Then I really thought it was. It's like it's all over the place. And God takes all of these things and makes it into something beautiful. So I don't know
Yeah.
who I'm talking to, but I just feel this prompt in my heart to tell people that, like, there's nothing wrong with you. Your life is beautiful. You may just be looking at it through the wrong lens. You need to look at it through God's eyes and ask the Lord, help me to see my life through your eyes. And tying it back into Mark Verghese and his message that you spoke about earlier, Mark, is allowing God to be the shepherd of our life and say, God, you know what you're doing. This looks crazy to me, but somehow you're going to make it work all out for good, because that's what your word says. So, Lord, regardless of what it looks like, especially I'm speaking to entrepreneurs, or if you're married and the kids or not, I know your life can be chaotic. However, God is going to work it all together for good. I mean, DJ, we didn't even get into that. So maybe you can kind of tie that in. You mentioned
Yeah.
family. How has that been in this
I,
whole thing
I,
for family?
I'll tell you, it's a journey. It's been interesting. It's been rewarding and interesting. So I've lived life fast forward and in fast speed my whole life. I realized I've played life almost like I played video games when I was a kid. I was a gamer, so I had the old Segas to everything. You know, when games weren't online, you just beat it. I would beat a game right away. I would beat games so fast that we had a deal with the video game store that if I beat it that same day, I could bring it back and get a different one. But so I would beat it so fast, but then what I would do was I'd beat it so fast and then play through it again and try to perfect it. And I didn't realize I was I treated my life that way. So I actually have five kids. I have first marriage. I got married young. I'm the oldest of four. I grew up again, boomer. My parents are of that age where they were raised in that this mentality that the mom doesn't work, the dad only works, mom stays home. Obviously, it's impossible today. It was even impossible really in the 80s. So my parents were poor, but poor on purpose because they tried to send four kids when most people only had two kids to private school, and they're trying to send them to private school. So a struggle. But literally, so I have five kids, but I have three from a first marriage. I had my first three very young. My first was I was 20, and he's 24 now. And then beyond from there, but literally, and I even have three grandkids. I have three granddaughters. But I realized, and with you bringing that up, it's been a struggle, but at the same time, I think it's been a secret blessing. My wife didn't come from a very strong spiritual background, religious background at all. Everybody's part of some religion, this Orthodox or this whatever, but they don't really, just like I was born and raised Catholic, but we didn't really, I didn't even understand it until later on. Um, so it's been a journey for her, and I'll tell you, there's certain moments that it's been like, okay, like when I walked away from everything, I'm like, I'm just going to promote people. It doesn't even matter if I get paid or what I get paid or what it matters. It's kind of like, okay, I remember that story. Is that Matthew or is that somebody? But I remember a story of a guy having everything and giving it all away and just following. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's me. Maybe that's the journey I'm on right now. And then there's the moments of Noah. And I'm a big movie person. So if you guys don't know the actual stories, the movie stories aren't far off. So Evan Almighty, he's building the ark, and his wife thinks he's crazy because he has this great position and this high authority and all these things, and he's leaving it. Then she leaves him, and again, it just ties to Noah and that story. And so I've had even moments like maybe this is my Noah moment, like maybe they're kind of getting separated from me to strengthen something that's there. I'm just going to continue doing this, even though it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to me what's going on or what I'm chasing or what this is about. And it definitely isn't going to make sense to them if I'm the one who's really the problem. I'm the one doing this. I'm the one following this, and they're just kind of here for the ride. So again, I obviously give them grace in the struggle of understanding, but uh, I give it all to him. 4 years ago, or almost 5 years ago now, like said, okay, whatever you tell me to do, I'm doing, and that's what's led me here
Yeah.
talking to you guys. So
That's awesome. So one of the things that I was thinking about earlier today was, we see failure all the time, right? It's just like a part of life. And you look in the
yeah,
sports world, like everybody wants to win the championship, but most people fail, right? On the grand scale, right? Only one person wins Wimbledon. Only one team wins the gold in the 400, all those kind of things, right? Now, it doesn't mean
yeah,
that everyone's a complete failure, but if you look at the bottom line, most people fail, and it means everybody does fail at some point. And so a lot of times we're failing multiple times a day, like because there's no one that's perfected anything. Like we can give our best effort and it can be pretty good, but at the end of the day, we may have not met the expectation we put on ourselves, or maybe somebody put on us, right? Like, hey, we get some sales goals, and like, they're not gonna like maybe beat you with a stick if you don't get it. But at the same time, you're like in the midst of that, you're still like, well, I failed on some level. And one of the things that makes me think of is, in life we have all these micro disappointments that's a term from John Eldridge, who has a book called Resilient, and it talks about that, right? Building up resilience in the midst of all these failures and disappointments we are all going to have no matter what. And so to me, DJ, this has been a journey of building resilience for the next thing, because until we go home to be with Jesus, there's going to be a lot more failures in our future,
yes,
right?
sir.
Whether or not they're just abject humility moments or just small things that don't work out the way you want. So speak to us a little about this resilience you're building and how that's kind of forging your path ahead.
Thank you and you led me to an amazing book. And again, I give a lot of my credit, and I want to write a book eventually that Audible and YouTube saved my life. Because if it wasn't for podcasts like this and Audible, again, I'm a Gary V type person. I hated school. School was kind of easy because I think I have a decent memory, but I hated it because it just didn't make sense. Like, why are we learning this? We're not going to use any of this stuff. Like, what is the purpose? But then it was the after school, the actual when the education really starts, and that's where just amazing authors like Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, some of the greats, Bob Proctor. But then, there was a guy, his name's, I can't think of his name, but he was a guy we had on my first podcast. He was a friend of Dan, the co-host of our first podcast. And he wrote this amazing book called Just Two Choices, and he was in the military. He was a pilot, and he said, when they're in the sky, and how he kind of broke this down, so anybody, and please go out and get this book, y'all. It changed my life. It's unbelievable. But and to talk about failure. I like to simplify things, just like I tried to simplify God with the whole good wolf, bad wolf kind of idea. But literally, or obviously, the struggle that we all are having. But how he simplifies, and what made me kind of simplify even deeper his idea or theory of just two choices, is he would say the meter on in the, when you're in the clouds, the only thing you're seeing is this meter that tells you you're either going up and you're not like going down like to the ground, or you're going down, it's the wrong way. And so he would do that all the time. And I have a card and a coin and stuff, and that really simplified to me what you're saying. And I think a lot of people who don't struggle with failure soon enough, and I think that's where even the helicopter parents, the overprotective parents, can kind of coddle their kids too much to where they don't fail enough younger, to where they don't, or maybe they're just so good at things for so long, then they face failure and they totally shut down later on in life. I've seen that too. Um, I failed a lot, so failure hasn't been a big issue for me, and I kind of am resilient to it just because I've failed and been so risky. I'm very risk. I'll take a risk. I'd rather take the risk than have the regrets of why didn't I try that? Um, and so, but the just two choices, the average human adult makes over 40 to 60,000 decisions in a day. So how many of those are you going to get wrong? You're going to get a lot. But as long as you're making at least one more of the 60,000 decisions positive every day, you're still going in the right direction. And that's what I think people need to realize. Like, there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be failures, there's going to be wrong decisions. But what did you learn? There's either a blessing or a lesson in every single choice. There's one or the other. And it's don't see losses as failures or failing, but as a lesson. Like, what is the lesson? What did you gain from it? Because you can always gain something.
That'll preach. Is it a blessing or is it a lesson? Hallelujah.
There we go.
Awesome. Yeah. So obviously we've walked through a lot of failures and we all will. But the point of this is God is prevailing, right?
Yeah.
And his plans are prevailing. So tell us a little bit about that right now. Like obviously, I think there's a recent transition in what you're doing
Yeah.
professionally, and you're talking
Yeah.
about, hey,
Hey.
maybe I'm supposed to be the Hope Dealer podcast now. Where do you see God's plan prevailing right now for you? And just encourage others in that same realm. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, but we also
Yes.
can entrust in the fact that his plan will ultimately prevail no matter what.
Absolutely. And I agree. And again, I am in a transition. I'm sure a lot of people are. The world's crazy. But again, if you really, I think the world's crazy on purpose, and we have to really understand that. Anybody who's a true Christian, a true follower, you know exactly what's going on. In a sense, back to your shepherd kind of idea, I think that's exactly what's going on. This is the awakening or the shakening of the goats and the sheep. And the goats are going to go their way and they might succeed even more. But the sheep are going to find each other, and that's where kind of my journey is leading. Again, from John Hewitt and kind of leading me back to Jesus and really being kind of like even my LinkedIn says, unapologetically Jesus first is my first thing. Um, but I think there's a lot of people going through that. And so we're either finding that whatever we're doing now isn't really fulfilling us the way that our true calling from God is going to fulfill us. And so a lot of people are in that transition and uncertain kind of transition of that, just like the disciples. Again, that's why I love the Chosen. I mean, what the Chosen did for me and my brother was, and for anybody who hasn't watched it, and if you're still not connecting with the what sounds like woo-woo from the Bible or different churches or whatever, watch The Chosen because it really, Dallas Jenkins does an amazing job of tying what was these stained glass characters, these saints, these people that seem not relatable to be real, to be what we all, again, what we're going through. Anybody who is a disciple, you know, you have one, are you one? 1 million disciples. Are you one? Because guess what? You're one of these blue fish going the opposite way, thinking, what is going on? Why, where are you guys all going? And why am I going this way? But that's what's going on right now. I think COVID started it. I think it really is not going to stop from this point. I don't think there is a turning back until there is a true awakening of who really are the sheep, the followers, the blue fish on the shirt. Um, and I think that's where we're going to find our ground again, our stability again. But yeah, in a transition, I have no idea what's next. If anybody is watching this and you want the Hope Dealer or you think that's a good idea, please let me know. Because again, I'm still on a journey. I have no clue what's next. Going
Yeah.
through the process, obviously need something so I can keep my wife's sanity and keep my family
Yeah.
afloat. But yeah, I'm still on the journey and still just following
Yeah,
where
100%.
he wants me to
The
go.
another point from Mark Verges's message was he's from Psalm 23 is that I'm never lost. When you follow Jesus and he's your shepherd, you're never actually lost, even though you might not know where you're going.
Yeah.
He knows where you're going. And it was an interesting point that he made was like, it'd be great if Jesus like checked in with you every 5 seconds and gave you like the details, but that's really not how it works, right? He's asking us to trust in him, and eventually you're going to get to the place that you got to go. And even if it's a temporary place, like everything here is temporary, right? Until we get to eternity, there's going to be continually moving and following him. So I know that's true for you, DJ.
Yes, sir.
You're never lost, and none of us
Nope.
are if we call Jesus our shepherd. And
Absolutely.
we're all about the great shepherd here at Sheep Feast for sure, for sure. So is there anywhere people can go find more of your stuff? You got like right now, do you have a current podcast, or are you kind of in between space?
Yeah, so me and my brother are gonna bring back. So we stopped the Chosen. So we it's Faith Between Brothers unpacking the Chosen. We live stream each episode. We talk about, what battle are you going through? Are you facing what little James is facing? Where, why am I healing all of these people, but you won't heal me? Or is it, Matthew, you have all of these things, but you still feel broken and lost, and you need to find Jesus? Or are you a Pharisee or the Sadducee? Or where are you falling? Are you one of the Romans? And just connecting the dots of what's going on today and trying to kind of make it make sense for people of what they might be seeing in the world today. Because again, we're all humans. We're still every one of us, no matter how broken or lost, are all creation of God in God's image, and we're called to follow Him. Now we all have the choice to follow Him or not, and to have that relationship with Him or not. But yeah, find you can that'll be out. But the Robinhood Capitalist would probably be the main place, or LinkedIn. Um, uh, I put most of my content on LinkedIn. I have
Yeah.
enough people on there wanting it. And again, thank you to all of you for keeping me going on the moments that I'm like, why am I doing this? I got to stop doing this. Is this even who am I helping? Am I only helping myself? And then here comes somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you again to everybody who does react and respond to my content. But yeah, LinkedIn or the Raw Money Capitalist on YouTube is our channel
Beautiful.
there.
So check that out. Go on YouTube, search out the Robin Hood Capitalist. Look on LinkedIn. Look for DJ Flores to follow along his content. I know you've been dropping stuff on the regular. Be encouraged, be inspired. I know today we've been encouraged and inspired by your story, DJ, that you just continue to faithfully follow Jesus, even though sometimes it's a murky situation, which we've all been. And if you're not there now, you will be, and
Yeah,
you already have been, and you will be again. And so
yeah.
just grateful for your transparency and just sharing your heart with us today, DJ. Any final words before we kind of close out our time today?
Oh man, thank you. It's just thank you again, both of you guys, for your time and for having me on, seriously, and for the kind words, and for the inspiration, Jay. The hope dealer, it might be coming,
I
but
like it.
literally, what I'll tell you guys, what I'll tell anybody, please watch The Chosen. Like you said, Mark, the disciples were there. They were with Jesus. Were walking with him, and they all had doubts and questions. Even the Israelites, even all different stories throughout the Bible, they had God do crazy things like parting the Red Sea and all of these amazing things to still have doubts and questions. So don't be concerned that you have doubts. You're going to. But you got to have faith in the end, because without it, what do you have? And so that's what I'll kind of leave you with.
Yeah,
Don't
amazing.
fear.
Thanks so much, DJ, for being a part, like I said, and sharing your heart with us, encouraging us all. For everybody else, we will catch you guys next time on the Corral Call with another great guest. And until then, be blessed. All right, all right.